Hello Super Friends and welcome to DC TV Talk, and in today's episode we're going to be breaking down and reviewing Legends of Tomorrow Season 4 Episode 3, otherwise entitled Dancing Queen. But before you proceed with this review, make sure you've seen the episode as it will be filled with spoilers. Also, I apologise for being a day late with this review. It was just it kind of got backlogged into my Arrow review, and I was also out at the cinema last night watching Steve McQueen's new film Widows, so I do apologise for that, but it's here now, so let's delve into it. So the main thing going on in this episode is that the Legends uncover a magical fugitive who is residing inside England in the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s, so that sort of time period. And it's all about the punk rock era of music in England. So this basically involves them finding this crew, this band known as The Smell, who basically are this up-and-coming punk rock band who were not actually there in the original timeline. And basically, Constantine says that one of these members, i.e. Declan, it's nice to see we actually have a character on the show called Declan. I believe there was actually another character called Declan on the show back in Season 1. I think he was one of the Time Masters. But it's nice to see this name over here get a bit of representation, you know what I'm saying? But other than that, we do actually see that this character of Declan, he says that this character is apparently a leprechaun, because this character is also Irish, obviously, you know, very stereotypical. And actually, it turns out that it's not actually him. There's another character who actually turns out to be the magical fugitive anachronism type character, who goes by the name of Charlie. Now, all of this stuff in England was fine. It kind of felt a bit fluffy, bit filler to me. It didn't really feel like it was that investing. I mean, it was fine. It was fun to watch, but it didn't really have anything substantial to it. There wasn't really much meat on the bones to chew on, because it kind of felt like there was just kind of, you know, it was just kind of like the show spinning its wheels. This was just kind of one of those episodes that, you know, oh, this is a time period, we're going to go there, we're going to do something, get involved with some corgis, and then we'll move on with our lives. And that's what this episode felt like to me. It just didn't particularly feel like anything too special. Given the band itself, they had to send in a member to infiltrate them, and the person who gets chosen, well, basically designated just by accident, is Ray Palmer. I have to say, I think Ray's really good in this episode. I enjoyed his performance a lot, especially because when it comes to like the scene when Charlie shapeshifts into Ray's body and becomes like, you know, an evil version of Ray, I thought that was quite fun. And I think Brandon Routh did a really good job with it, especially because he had quite a few scenes where he really had to like change up what he did. Like that scene, there was another one as well. And I thought, you know, his kind of like over exuberant, you know, enthusiasm and positivity was a nice foil to the rest of the band members, and it actually made him fit in some way, which was quite strange but quite nice to see. And I quite enjoyed Ray in this episode overall, because Ray is sometimes a bit of a dodgy character. Like, he doesn't always fit into the plot very well, but it was nice to actually see him get used quite well here. Now, the other big thing to come out of this is that the magical fugitive known as Charlie is introduced here. Now, when I heard the name Charlie, I thought, obviously, if you've been following the news on Legends of Tomorrow, you'll know that Charlie is the name of the character that Maisie Richardson-Seller, who used to play Amaya, is going to be playing this season. But the actress who was this character of Charlie in this episode, I was like, well, that's not Maisie Richardson-Seller. So I thought, well, what's going on here? Well, turns out her sort of magical fugitive power is that she is a shapeshifter. And I was like, okay, here we go. So they find out, she basically sees Amaya in a newspaper, and, you know, Ray basically tells her, oh yeah, she was a friend of ours, she's gone now, I really miss her. And basically she shapeshifts into Amaya. And this is when Constantine shows up, and Constantine actually removes her power, so she can't shapeshift anymore. However, coincidentally, when he did this, she was in the form of Amaya. So basically now she's stuck as Amaya. She looks like Maisie Richardson-Seller. So this explains the whole, you know, thing I was worrying about, which was, how are they going to explain this Charlie character? Why does she look like Amaya? How are they going to explain this? So basically, she's a shapeshifter. She has no connection to Amaya whatsoever. She is not part of the lineage in any way. She literally just shapeshifted into Amaya, had the power taken away from her, so she can't shapeshift ever again, and she was stuck. So now she's stuck in Amaya's body, or Amaya's, you know, form, basically. Which is fine. And I have to say, I actually do like Charlie as a character. I liked her in this episode. I thought she was good. I think she's going to be a fun addition to the team. She's a bit more of a prankster, a bit more of a, you know, a bit more of a rebel without a cause. I think that's how Maisie Richardson-Seller sort of described her as well. And, you know, that'll be an interesting character to have on the show, have on the Wave Rider, something a bit different. And it'll be good to have Maisie Richardson-Seller back on the show, because I think Maisie Richardson-Seller is probably one of the best actresses we've had on Legends of Tomorrow. She was really good in Season 2 and 3, so I'm definitely excited to have her back. And given the fact she's going to be able to play something a bit different, something a bit more fun, is definitely good for us, the audience, but also her as a performer. There was also another brief storyline going on in this episode between Constantine and Zari, where Constantine just kind of goes off on his own in this episode and goes to Liverpool, and he actually comes across his mother, which this was actually quite interesting because I thought, yeah, that's quite a cool idea, that's quite a nice storyline, you know, delving into Constantine's backstory, because when you think about it, even on the Constantine show, as far as I'm aware, we don't really delve into his backstory, and obviously Constantine is a very fun and very interesting character. So I thought, okay, family stuff, that's interesting. And Zari's kind of along there, and you kind of get the idea that Constantine's dad was a bit abusive, perhaps was, you know, not really there for him and what have you, or maybe was even abusive to his mother, and he actually finds his dad in the same bar that he's at, and he basically goes to kick him in the balls really, really hard. And they introduced this weird thing where if you're about to do something that could cause you to be erased from existence, you basically get thrown back. Like, it's hard to explain until you've actually seen it, and I assume you've all seen this episode if you're watching this. But you know what I mean, that moment where he just got thrown back before he kicked his dad in the balls, because if he kicked his dad in the balls, then he probably would have some problems with his downstairs area, meaning Constantine would never have been born. So this is a weird rule, but it completely contradicts everything, because they've done this so many times. Like, they've done this thing where, you know, characters will be erased from the past, like, or that they will be erased from history. Like, they've done it with Rey, they've done it with Sarah, they've done this, like, quite a lot. And even when you think about Amaya, like, her whole thing was that she had a destiny to go back to, you know. She couldn't stay on the Wave Rider because she had to go back to Zambezi to fulfill her destiny, and, you know, if she didn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And it's just, like, it feels really different. It just feels like this is just something they've introduced really weirdly, purely for a joke, so they could have that moment where Constantine fell on the ground. And, you know, the fact that they've introduced this whole new thing, which again is completely contradictory, just in order of a joke, I found a bit weird and a bit annoying, and I found it was a bit just wasteful. It was really useless. I don't see the point in it. And although the scene and the idea was okay, you know, of him trying to, you know, get justice for his father, or, you know, get justice on his father, essentially, and actually delving into Constantine's family was a good idea, it's a good concept, but they kind of completely squandered it by doing this new time thing, and I just didn't enjoy that at all. I thought it was completely stupid. And the other thing going on in this episode is we have Nate and Gary, obviously Nate working at the Time Bureau, and him and Gary have now become Time Bros, as they call themselves. So basically Gary has replaced Rey in Nate's life. And yeah, I mean, this stuff was alright. It's just kind of Nate and Gary going around doing some stuff. They went to this place where they interacted with a saber-toothed tiger, which they kind of played to be this massive dramatic moment, but it wasn't really. And they had this interaction with this plant, which then they had to go clean up and fight, and there's just like some weird, like, really fluffy stuff. However, what was interesting is we do get the introduction of the character known as Mona, who, if you don't know, she is actually going to be a series regular this season. She's actually going to become a legend, it seems like, and actually a member of the Wave Rider. And I think she's going to gain powers. So, yeah, that character who you've seen, who is giving out the food in the Time Bureau, she's actually a series regular. So, you know, I mean, I can't really give too much of an opinion on her just yet. She only had, like, 2 scenes. But she definitely is likable, and I definitely enjoyed her presence on screen. So I'm interested to see what they do with her. It's just hard to make a judgment, because we don't even really know who this character is, where she comes from, what she's about, what she's going to do. We just know she's in the season. We know she's a series regular. So, yeah, that's pretty much what this episode kind of served as, was just to introduce new characters. So we got Charlie with the main storyline, and then we got Mona with this side storyline. So that's basically what this episode felt like to me. It just kind of felt like a episode they had to do in order to introduce new characters. Now, as you can probably tell by my tone of voice in this video, it seems quite different than normal, and that's just because I'm a bit down on this episode, to be honest with you. It's just, for me, I didn't really enjoy this episode too much. I felt this episode was weak. I thought it was really poor, especially in comparison to everything we've received from Legends. And I got a bit of a signal from this last week. I wasn't like the biggest fan of it. I liked last week's episode, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. This episode I thought was quite poor, to be honest with you. I think this is one of Legends' weakest episodes that they've done in a long time, like since like season 1. I think the problem with Legends this season in particular, and this was a fear I kind of had in the back of my head, which I didn't really want to admit to myself, is that Legends this season has almost become a parody of what it was. Like, Legends in Season 3, you know, it was ridiculous. Like, nobody can say otherwise. Legends Season 3 was absolutely ridiculous, but it was self-aware, and it knew it was ridiculous, and it embraced it, and it was brilliant because of it. Legends, like, Season 3 is, in my opinion, the best season of Legends of Tomorrow. Season 4 has almost become a parody of that. Like, they're basically doing all this over the top ridiculous stuff, and they're still being self-aware about it, but it doesn't work to the same level because they're not. It doesn't even seem like they're taking it seriously anymore. Which, you know, even though again Legends is very self-aware and doesn't take itself too seriously, it's still based in reality in some way. This season doesn't feel like that, and all of the characters, for the most part, except for probably I'd say Constantine, feel like caricatures of the characters that they were. Like Sarah, for example. Sarah is just like completely different, I think. Ray has basically just turned back into the character that he was. Nate is even though they have improved Nate this season, you know, him sort of with Gary, it's kind of in a weird contrast. Zari has kind of turned to a different kind of character than what she was last season, because I feel like she's basically going to be replaced by Charlie in terms of personality. So it's really weird. I'm really worried for Legends this season. I've not been the biggest fan of this season so far, to be honest with you, which is really disappointing because I was so excited about Legends this season. Because I love Legends, I really do. I love it. Like, out of the Arrowverse shows, it's my second favorite under Arrow. I love Legends. But this season, I don't know, I'm not getting a good feeling for it, and I really hope they improve it. I really hope that they step up. Because I'm getting a bit worried, to be honest with you, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to take to it. There are some elements I do really like. You know, I think everything with Ava's great. I love Constantine, you know, but there are just some things, like I say, it almost doesn't feel like the same show that we had last season, and that's a real shame, because again, even though it is self-aware, it's not taking itself seriously enough in order to make the audience buy it. So, I don't know, I'm not having a good feeling about this, but what do you think? Do you think Legends is kind of different this season? How do you feel? Let me know. So thank you guys for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like, it will help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV and get them to join the community. And as always guys, please subscribe for all of your latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Arrow. And with all that said guys, I hope to see you again in my next video.